Hey friends, and welcome back to our channel. We're going to talk about 5 downsides to moving to Salt Lake City today. Now, some of the things we talk about on this list are going to be an issue for some people and maybe not an issue for other people. But we're just going to talk about some of the downsides to living here and what we've seen in our day-to-day lives. Now, we may have talked about some of these before, but it's always good to go a little bit more in depth with some of our own personal experiences with maybe some of the cons of living in Salt Lake.
So with that being said, if you're thinking about making a move here to Salt Lake City or any of the surrounding areas, or even in the entire state of Utah, then make sure to reach out to us. Our information is always down in the description below. So call us, text us, or send us an email anytime. We'd love to hear from you guys. We literally have helped so many people from all across the world move here to our beautiful state, and we would love to help you out as well.
If this is your first time to this channel and you want to know everything about living, eating, sleeping, working, and playing here in northern Utah, then subscribe below and tap the bell for notifications so you can be the first to know about the current market here in northern Utah.
We are Sloan and Kim Peterson with the Peterson Group, and we've been in the real estate business for 10 years. And every day we help people just like you buy, sell, or invest in northern Utah, and we absolutely do love it. Whether you're looking to buy 9 days or 90 days, give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email. All of the information is in the description below so we can help you make that smooth transition to northern Utah. Let's go ahead and get into it.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is the inversion that we get here in Utah. Unfortunately, we do get some pretty bad inversion here, especially in the winter time. This is something that has gotten better in recent years, and it is something that generally pops up during the winter. We're actually about to come into inversion season, as we like to call it, and one downfall to that is that it can make it harder to do those outdoor activities. Now what happens is, because we are in what is literally a bowl here in Utah between these beautiful mountains, a lot of that smog from factories and cars and everyday kind of living gets caught. And until we have a storm, a rainstorm, a snowstorm, a windstorm, something like that, it just gets stuck and kind of hovers in our air. Another reason why we like those heavily wet winters here, so we can kind of keep our air clean. So unfortunately, the inversion is something that you do kind of have to consider if you do want to live here, and especially if you have any sort of lung or breathing issues. A couple things to keep in mind though, it's definitely not as bad in Park City or Eden, or kind of those areas with higher altitudes, and that's actually where a lot of our outdoor recreation like ski resorts are. So that is kind of a plus, that you can still enjoy those outdoor activities even with the inversion.
All right, next up, let's talk about the cost of living here in Utah, and specifically the Salt Lake area. Now this is one that we talk about a lot on our channel, but let's talk a little bit about housing and how expensive it has really gotten here along the Wasatch Front. We did see prices go up over 40% these last 2 years, and even with the housing uncertainty, we are still expecting probably another 6 to 10% increase this year. We are still seeing homes that are priced right receiving multiple offers and driving up some of those purchase prices. This is just my own personal opinion and kind of what we are studying, but there are not really projected to be any economic downturns that's happening in Utah right now, so our housing is remaining stable at those higher price points. We have seen interest rates go up over the last few years, so the cost of living has definitely gotten more expensive to live here in those last few years. If you're looking at buying a home in the Salt Lake City area, you're probably going to be spending $300,000 to $400,000 for a condo, about $400,000 to $500,000 for a townhouse, and then single family homes that are in good areas with a good amount of space, you know, something that's really not a total fixer-upper, you're going to be looking at spending around $500,000 plus. So that being said, if you also want to live in some of the nicer areas, if you want to live, you know, on that east side, which is typically a little bit older, but does have some nicer homes that are a little bit bigger, you could be easily spending $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 or $900,000, even $1 million plus to get that type of property that you want. So it's all going to depend, of course, on the age of the home, the area, the location, the features, the size, and of course those factors are going to be important, but it has gotten really expensive, especially compared, you know, to previous years. I'm seeing homes sell today for $900,000, which in the past, they were really selling for around $500,000 to $600,000. So we have seen a huge jump in prices over the past few years, especially since 2020.
The third thing we're going to talk about is the homeless population. Now, we've mentioned this in other vlogs in relation to bigger cities, as we know it's a common problem across the country, but it's definitely something we do see here in Salt Lake City as well. Now, specifically in Utah, we do have a higher than average mental health crisis, which, as you know, can lead to more homelessness. It's also worth noting we do have a higher than average drug abuse issue. Now, one of the main factors of homelessness becoming kind of more of a problem in these last couple of years is the fact that they moved the homeless shelter from downtown Salt Lake farther out into some of the surrounding suburbs. Now, the city thought this would be a good thing to kind of create smaller shelters and more of a spread out area, but the problem with that is all of the resources for homelessness are downtown. So instead of moving into those further out shelters, what actually happened is a couple of the parks and even the library downtown just kind of turned into what we call tent city, where the homeless kind of set up their own housing situation. So instead of helping, not having the shelter here in the city actually compounded the problem and made it worse for all parties. The good thing, and on the flip side of that, is that once you get out into the suburbs, you really don't see homeless people, and that is where most of the housing in the Salt Lake area is. So you're mostly experiencing it coming into downtown or into the more commercial areas. So if you work downtown or you do want to live right in the city, that's just something to consider if you're looking to make that move.
Okay, so here we are at number 4, and we want to talk about the lack of housing inventory. Unfortunately, the number of sales that we're seeing in the housing market is down roughly about 20% from where it should be and from where it was a few years ago. And that's obviously directly due to the interest rates. So this is something that is a little bit concerning because you're seeing a lot of that fake inventory coming into the market. So we are going to be increasing the overall amount of homes in the market, but the number of sales is actually decreasing. The thing to keep in mind is that we are actually still in a housing shortage here in the state of Utah, so we're really roughly around 40,000 homes short, or about 10 years away from having enough inventory for everyone to have adequate housing here in Utah. The problem with that is when our inventory does start to increase because of an outside source like interest rates, once those do drop, which everybody's waiting for, right, the buyer is going to flood the market again, and we won't really be able to keep up with the demand. It's going to push up that purchase price, making it more really than it should be. Another thing that happens when the market does appear to slow down is builders usually do stop building as well, which just compounds that housing shortage issue. We actually could and probably should do a whole video just on the housing market, as we do study that every day. But if you ever do have a question or just want to have a conversation just around that, again, feel free to reach out through text, email, or a phone call. We always love being able to have those conversations and they're really to help clients figure out, what is best for them as far as the real estate journey goals are.
And last, we want to talk about Salt Lake winters. Again, this is something we've mentioned in a lot of other videos, and we even did a whole video about it, which you can find here. But the main thing to remember is we do have heavy winters with heavy snowfall and a lot of cold, dry days. And if you've never lived in the snow, it can be a difficult adjustment. It's definitely really nice to enjoy a snow day if you love winter activities or you get to play in the snow. But keep in mind, when you have to do any other activity in the snow, it can be a struggle. From driving in it to maintaining it, your home in it and yard, to having to get groceries or run basic errands during a snowstorm, it's definitely just something to plan for when you move here to Salt Lake or Utah in general. For me, if I know a snowstorm is coming, I make sure to have enough groceries, salt for the sidewalks, a good shovel, and to try not to schedule any appointments or anything around those big storms. Those may be things you've never had to plan for if you haven't lived in a place that has heavy winter months. So again, just something to keep in mind.
All right, guys, so that wraps up the 5 downsides you might experience when moving to Salt Lake. Please keep in mind, though, these are just facts about living in the state. They may not be bad for everyone. It's just best to know what you're moving into before you make that leap. If you have any questions or want more information, again, just reach out. Our contact information is in the description below.
Picking where you'll call home is an important decision, and we would love to help you make that smooth transition to cities like Salt Lake City, Utah, and the surrounding areas. If you're looking to purchase in the northern Utah area, we would love to help you out. Give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email. And as always, we are keeping it real estate.